Hi, so I want to start with my elevator pitch for this game. I've been working on it a little while now, and I know we've talked through most of this before, but maybe this will cover something that I forgot to mention. Fading Suns is a published tabletop role-playing game by Holistic Games, which is Bill Bridges, Andrew Greenberg, and some of those other guys from White Wolf. I've often described it as a space opera kitchen sink. It has a lot of Star Wars, some Dune, Stargate, Hyperion, Dying Earth, Firefly, all that stuff. And it's big. In fact, it's sprawling. But it does have two saving graces. First, it's really well developed, with a lot of detail laid down. And second, it's really well tied together by its common themes. I started playing it 15 years ago in a chronicle that lasted like 3 years. I fell in love with it, and I've been wanting to bring it back to the table ever since. So I appreciate you guys uh, letting me do that. Lately, I've been thinking a lot about how to bring players to a big setting like this. Gone are the days where we all get together in somebody's living room and spend game zero reading through splat books for 6 hours. That just isn't going to happen for any of us anymore. Nor does anybody want to listen to me drone on with exposition for hours as you make knowledge check after knowledge check trying to find out what's going on that your character already knows. Nobody wants either one of those things. And we talked about this before. I think we have a pretty good way of avoiding this by bringing naive characters and players into a chance to explore the setting. Characters will in this game will all come from a world that's been cut off for a long time. I think that I also have a pretty good gimmick that will let you have a sort of semi-reliable source, for information that you can take with you, so you don't have to stop every 15 minutes and ask the locals, embarrassingly naive questions. So first, we're going to collaborate to create that world briefly from a very no-brainer baseline, and then we'll create characters. Anyway, around the same time that I started playing Fading Suns, I also started reading about an early version of Fate, that is to say Fudge, and I really liked it immediately. I like the flexibility, the ease of play, and I especially like the economy of narrative control, player-defined aspects, and the focus on actual storytelling. Those are great. I mean, I can't think of anything as good as Fate, uh, really, that I've come across in years. Naturally, I've been thinking about how to wed these two things together for a long time. Eventually, and it was pretty recently, I realized something. Some games like Fading Suns is a perfect example of this, really bring their themes and ideas to the table through their mechanics. So, the adaptability of Fate is certainly one of its great strengths, but I decided that it's not something I'm going to lean on here. Instead, I'm creating a Fate variant. So, Vanilla Fate has 5 aspects, including a high concept, a trouble, stunts, fate points, refresh, invokes, and compels, rolling 4 dice and adding a stat, attacks, defense, obstacle, overcoming, and all of those things are just the same as what we're accustomed to in my variant. Vanilla Fate also uses a list of 18 skills. You do some pre-game character development by deciding what concretely your character is best at, right? That helps realize the character, and when you try to do something in game, you decide which skill is applicable, and then you add that to your roll, right? There's also a published Fate variant some of you may know called Fate Accelerated, which is a very streamlined version of Fate. And in Accelerated, instead of the 18 skills, you use a list of just 6 approaches. The approaches are things like flashy, forceful, sneaky. Each of them helps you realize your character through their typical style of doing things before play begins. And when the character is trying to do something in game, they look at their list of approaches and see which approach is best suited, what style is best suited to what they're trying to do, and they add that to the roll. So my variant uses something a lot like approaches. It has 7 moods, 7, uh, and like approaches, they replace skills. Each mood is an idea that ties character motivations to one of the larger overarching themes of the Fading Sun setting. Ideally, those names that I picked for each of these are self-explanatory. Anyway, I did the best job I could with the names, but to go over that list real briefly, because it is a lot of character development, at least to begin with. There's passion, which is living large through big emotions and sensation. There's faith, which is the idea that there's a plan for the greater good and you're ready to play your part in it. There's ego, which is individuality, self-knowledge, discipline, vision, idiosyncrasy, and a will to power. There is glory, which is basically attention seeking. It's doing things that a lot of people will remember for a long time. That's what drives you. There is mystery, which is, curiosity, the desire to answer questions and be the first to see something new, which inevitably leads to transcending your ordinary frame of life, transcending yourself, transcending even the universe. It's curiosity and transcendence. Then there's duty. Duty is loyalty to one or many ideals, institutions, or people, and being ready to do the hard work of fulfilling that loyalty. Right? Loyalty and hard work, in other words. And then finally, there's doom. Doom is the sense that the universe is falling, and you know you can't escape your fate forever. Sometimes you're resigned, and sometimes you're running scared, and in either modality, doom. So with these 7 moods, you get +4, +3, +2, +1, and then the other 3 are at +0. And that is what will be your skill set. What substitutes for the vanilla Fate 18 skills. Now, Fading Suns is a big skill game. Most of what you do in the game comes through relatively ordinary role-playing game skills. I didn't want to abandon that granularity that Fading Suns has by using moods. So I have what's probably the most complicated part of my homebrew. They're called competencies, and I didn't want you to have to rate all of these skills from 0 to 5. So for starters, they're all binary. Either you have them or you don't. If you have the competency, if it's something that anybody could ever hope to do without the competency, you can automatically just do it. If it's something you don't have the competency and somebody without the competency, without any experience with things, might be able to do it a little bit, then you get to roll for it still, to roll at -1. And if it's something that's super important to the game, and is quite difficult even with the competency, obviously you will be rolling for that. There are about 160 distinct portions of skill as I chop them up in the game to choose from in terms of competencies. You probably won't buy most of them a la carte. They roll up into larger and larger packages, and the packages are groupings of competence that are conceptually related so that they cost less. For example, there's a broad class of skills for combat in this game, and you can take the package Veteran, which costs 4 points, and out of that you get the whole entire range of combat skills: unarmed fighting, all personal weapons, artillery and gunnery, planetary tactics, starship tactics, personal shields, vac suit. Every combat-oriented skill in the game, you get that for 4 points. Yeah, so it's a pretty good deal, and it's conceptually tied together. Now, for just 2 points, you can take a smaller package called Soldier, and what Soldier gives you is a few of those abilities: artillery, planetary tactics, one specific melee weapon, and one specific ranged weapon. The general rule is that the larger the package, the better the cost break, and there are a few things that are 2 for 1 or 3 for 2, but basically it works like this. 1 competency a la carte is 1 point, 4 competencies in a package cost 2 points, 9 competencies in a package that are all related cost 3 points, and 16 competencies in a package that are all related in some way or another cost 4 points, and so on. There's one 5-point package in the game. Anyway, I expect to take a little bit of time helping you through this stage, but I think we can get that done without bogging down too badly, at least I hope so.